My Onefinity CNC machine is in the worst shape that it has ever been in, and I feel like this is the perfect time to do a 1-year review. Right now, I don't have dust collection set up, which is this machine's complete Achilles heel. I also don't have my spindle in it because I don't have power to run a 220 spindle currently in the shop. Very, very long story. And then I also have this wasteboard, which is not a wasteboard. It's just material bringing it up so that this Makita router can actually interact with the stuff that we're trying to cut out. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and get the bear out of the way. If you're looking at buying a machine and you think that the Onefinity Elite is comparable to anything else on the market currently as of today, there's nothing else that touches this machine and has the capabilities of it. This is the best, most pro-level hobby CNC machine that you can currently buy as of today, as of the time that this video is posting. So anybody who's going to say that there's another machine that's better, it might be better for you. But general purposes, everybody wins. This is the machine to buy. Now today we're going to be cutting out something out of this piece of walnut that I think a lot of different makers are going to be creating with their CNC machines, which is a beer flight board. I'm going to go through that process, and then I'm going to talk about the things that I do like and the things that I do not like about this machine. All right, let's talk about dust collection and why you actually need that on this machine in particular. These ball screws right here, this dust, if it gets on there, it gets sucked up and then it can clog up your ball nut. Now, that is going to be like regular maintenance. There's no CNC machine that's going to be completely perfect. Every CNC machine is going to suffer from having dust around it and just in its components in general. So that's not like specifically a Onefinity thing, but it is an issue. And I hope that in future iterations of these machines, they're going to put some type of a dust boot on there. I don't know why there isn't. You should be running dust collection with your machine regardless. Now, you might say, Hamilton, why are you not running dust collection? And it's because I physically can't turn on my Oneida Supercell Turbo dust collector right now because I don't have 220 in the shop. If you're looking for a dust collector and you want the very best one, Oneida Supercell Turbo, sheesh, it's insane. Now in this project in particular, I'm going to be using the bowl cut bit and then I'm going to be using the Downtown Jenny, which are two of the only bits you need to CNC with me. If you're brand new to the channel, I do a project video every single Friday and it only uses 3 bits, so check those out if you want to. The Masso interface is really, really well thought out and it works super, super well. It does need a USB drive in there to work, although you can wirelessly upload files to it, but you have to have something plugged in there. It works really, really great for my workflow because the longest time I did not actually have Wi-Fi in the barn. So you just go over to load file. For right now we're using the bowl cut bit and then we're going to be switching over to the Downtown Jenny. You press load and then it's going to give you a simulation of what you're trying to achieve with that specific bit in this specific toolpath. Now something that it does not do is give you a time estimation of how long it's going to cut, which I think is just absolutely bonkers. It's like so annoying. And from what I can understand, that's not a Onefinity thing. That's a Masso thing. You got to reach out to Masso and say, hey, is there an update? Because it's possible, it's a software thing, but I don't know why it's not there, and it can be incredibly frustrating. So once you've loaded up your file, you go over to Program, and that's where we can start our process. So I'm going to go ahead and start this file. Let's go ahead and run this, and then we'll cut it out. All right, now here is my biggest issue with this machine, and it's funny because I haven't even talked to Onefinity about this, but it's always been like this constant nagging thing in the back of my head of, why is it not bigger? And I know that a lot of people want 4x8. I don't care about 4x8. Actually, I think that this is a little bit overkill for my shop, and the Journeyman is like the perfect size if it would change slightly. It being 48 by 48 sounds like you're able to make a 48 by 48 circle, but you can't because your bit has to clear that area. I wish this machine was a 50 by 50. That would give you plenty of room to be able to use a 1/2 inch bit, which most people with a spindle having much bigger bits on it, that's what they're going to be using, and it would allow you to be able to truly make 4-foot wide stock. Now, if this machine was a 60 by 60 to be able to put on a 5 by 5 piece of Baltic birch, that would be great. I would still want it to be a 62 by 62 so you can properly use the material that you have instead of having to have that waste built in because you have to make that profile cut. I've had people who have asked me specifically to make 4-foot wide stuff, and I'm like, hey, as long as you're cool with it being 47 inches, then we can do that. They'll always say yes. No one really cares at the end of the day. It's just kind of a measurement that they throw out. But they're specifically making these machines so that you can put half a sheet of plywood down on it. And I just wish that I could fully use that half of sheet of plywood, and instead of having to use some of it as built-in waste for the project overall. Now, I know that's not going to be a huge deal to a lot of people because, like I just said, the 32 by 48 really is the sweet spot for me. I really only use the majority of the front of this machine, and I would use the back of it only for an ATC compatible spindle, where you would be able to store all of your bits on the back and be able to pick those up. Let's dive into price, because this being the nicest thing in the CNC hobby, it's got a price tag to it, and I still believe that it's a little bit underpriced. I know that's just my opinion, but Onefinity is obviously committed to making the best machine for the lowest price possible to be able to get into the consumer's hands. Obviously, they're a business, they're making money off of this, but I am continually astounded by how cheap these things are because of their capabilities. And I think that that's a big gap for a lot of people when they're looking at hobby CNC machines, because for some people, they're getting into this just to be able to mess around and to make some really cool stuff that they're proud of, maybe as gifts. And to another whole set of people, they're using these things as a workhorse in their shop to be able to make stuff to sell. The price of this machine doesn't change for either one of those groups of people, and for some people it makes it the deal of the century, and for other people it makes it really darn expensive. So depending on who you're talking to, this is either a great deal or this is overpriced. But regardless, when you take a step back and look at all the things that it takes to be able to run this machine, it's not a cheap hobby to get into. So if you are looking to have a setup like this with a very nice dust collector, even things like dust boots, having something that works extremely well and is really reliable, all of that stuff costs money. And if you're not using your machine to generate income, that can be a huge stopping point for you in your journey to be able to look at a CNC machine. Because first and foremost, you go to the website and you see the bare basics machine and you think, okay, I know what I'm getting into. But then things start nickel and diming, actually hundreds of dollars and diming you away, to the point where by the time you get up to this, you're looking at anywhere from realistically $6,000 to $10,000. You really need to make sure that it's something that you're okay with spending that amount of money on to have, or that it's the right step for your business to be able to generate income. Just because you have a CNC machine does not mean that it's going to start making money. It's the exact same thing as if you went out and bought a screwdriver. It doesn't make you a handyman. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody in your neighborhood needs you to come over and fix something and pay you to fix it. It just means that you own a screwdriver. If you're trying to turn this into a business, there's a lot of other things that you have to do to be able to make this work for you and generate income. Well, it is time for this week's Mystery File, and if you're brand new here, every single week Mitz, who is a partner in file creation over in CNC with me, well, he sends me some mystery G-code. And as you're seeing right now, he sends me some very basic instructions where I just kind of load it on the machine, put in the bits that we need to, and press go, and see what Mitz has in store for us. So first and foremost, we're putting in a bowl cut bit, and we're doing something. Heck if I know. And then we're putting in a downtown Jenny, which is also going to do something. Let's see what happens. So whenever I see stuff like this, I think of that meme. I don't know if anybody watches Invincible on Amazon Prime, but there's a meme from it when Omni-Man is looking at Invincible and he's like, look at what they have to do to mimic a fraction of our power. Whenever I'm on Instagram and I see people like making all these jigs and doing these different things, the same thing just pops into my mind. Like, this just took a few minutes, whereas somebody else, sure, they could set up their shop and do all types of jigs and stuff and crank these things out, but not even remotely as fast as using a CNC machine. If you're using this machine purely to crank out things like dice trays and stuff, there is absolutely no reason why this should not be able to make 100 of these every single day consistently for you. You set up some fixtures right here on your CNC machine, and then you just put down your material the exact same place every single time, run the exact same files, and you get the exact same result. Regardless if you like Onefinity or if you're going for a different machine, if you're in the market for a CNC machine, you should definitely get one. If you can afford it and if you have a vision of where you're going with your business or with your hobby or with your purpose in life and you're just looking to dive into something, CNC machining is incredible. It can be really frustrating for sure, but look at this. It's absolutely nuts. Thanks, Mitz. Now, this Onefinity Journeyman X50 was the first CNC machine that I ever purchased, and I remember trying to go through all the options of figuring out what I actually needed for a CNC machine, and I don't think that that's native to Onefinity, but I do think that it's something that could be easier to navigate. As I've talked to a ton of different people in the space, one of the main questions that they ask when they're first getting into this is, what do I need? Because there's no like buy one button on Onefinity's website, whereas if you're going to much smaller machines like the Sane Smart or something like that, you get a box and everything works, and it's probably not going to be what you're going to have long term. And Onefinity knows that because they really want you to have the modularity to do the things that you want to do, because there truly are infinite possibilities. I know that that's like their tagline and it's a little bit cheesy to say, but it's just the truth, because when they are providing you a CNC machine, they're trying to provide to you the very best thing that they can, which unfortunately for brand new beginners in the space is pretty daunting and confusing. This machine itself, I could have a different Z-axis on it because it has no axis on it right now, and I could have a Makita router or a spindle. It could be water cooled, it could be air cooled. This table is really great for some people and not great for others. I personally don't like T-track, and some people really need space underneath because they're doing vertical stuff. Other people are just going to have Onefinity machines that are completely dedicated to rotary axis, and there's just a lot of things that you have to understand before you're getting into it. Because like I've been saying, Onefinity is like the nicest brand in the hobby CNC machines, so a lot of people are going to gravitate towards it. And one of the things that makes it so nice is because it really does scratch the itch no matter what you're planning on doing. Now, another cool thing about this is I could upgrade this to be an Elite system, which is why I'm next to this one right now. It is on the BuildBotics controller still, but if I wanted to, I could go through the process of sending some rails back, getting a few things, swapping a few motors over, and this essentially would act and have the exact same brains as the Masso controller that the Elite systems have. Now, all of that is really great if you're buying a machine and you're looking to upgrade it in the future, but it's really confusing to people who have no idea what they're doing when first getting into CNC machining. Going from that X50 system, which I believe now is called like the Pro, there's a huge creature comforts and upgrades with this. First and foremost, I want to just talk about the drag chain. That is huge. Being able to throw all of your wires in one specific place, which obviously I'm not using properly at this point, it's a huge time saver. An issue that you might be facing, which is I guess not really a huge thing, but if you are going with a water-cooled system, you are going to have to really play around with how that interacts with the drag chain so that it's not creating too much tension or being too lax in certain places, that as your machine's running it doesn't cause any type of an issue. On my X50 machine in the past, I did have some EMI, so electromagnetic interference, and things would get a little bit of wonky with the BuildBotics controller where the screen would turn off. I put on some of those magnetic ferrite things that you put on the power, and it helped a little bit, but I haven't had any type of electrical interference with this machine at all. The Masso system works so well, and I haven't ever had it flicker or anything like that. The only thing that I don't like about it is it doesn't calculate job time, which is mind-blowing, but whatever. Now, when we talk about creature comforts about having the drag chain, one thing that I really do miss about the old system is being able to use an Xbox controller to jog it around. I still haven't gotten one of the pendants, and I think that in the community, especially the older people in the community that have really paved the way in CNC machining up until this point, they're automatically going to gravitate towards a pendant because that's what they learned on. I automatically gravitated towards an Xbox controller because that's what I learned how to play video games on. It was super natural. It made everything so much easier on my old machine that I really do miss on this one. The Masso is really intuitive and it's really easy to hit the buttons and change the speeds up and everything, but it is one of those things that I do miss about the old machine. As I've said even 2 years ago, no, I don't think that you should go into debt to try and get one of these and convince yourself that, oh, it's just going to pay for itself and it's going to completely change my life and all of a sudden I'm going to be making a ton of money. It only does what you tell it to do. So I would highly suggest that you look at some of these free programs, play around with them for a while, and figure out if that's something that you even enjoy. If you don't enjoy the side of it, where you're looking to set up programs and be as efficient as possible with your machine, you're probably not going to have a very good time. If you understand exactly how you're going to use this to generate income or generate purpose in your life in some regard, this is definitely the one to buy. I don't make any money if you purchase a Onefinity CNC machine at all. I don't work for Onefinity. I love the guys over there. They're great. But if you're brand new to CNC machining or you're somebody who's looking to challenge themselves a little bit more, go ahead and check out cncwithme.com, because this file right here is currently available over there for all of you CNC with Me members. You can go ahead and download this as well as the other 3 designs that I have specifically for these beer flight boards. And in the toolpath tutorial, I talk about how this is a very static version of it, but you can make this better in a few different ways as well. CNC with Me has projects that come out every single Friday through this YouTube channel when I'm putting out those videos. And also we have some brand new instructors over there that are YouTubers that are also putting out videos on their channel. I'll have them linked down in the description if you're interested in seeing who those people are. Last but not least, I have torn down and reassembled this machine in particular like 5 times now, and it still is just going. I've had it just in parts in the back of trucks banging into stuff. It's built like a tank. This is the CNC machine if you're looking to buy one and you're looking to just have something that's going to work for years to come, that you're not going to have to tinker with, that you're not going to have to tighten little things and make sure that everything's just right. I walk in, I turn it on, I use it, and then I leave. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments down below. Bye.